People of the world, welcome to Send It Rising. I want to say the 384th episode. We have a very special guest today. You've heard me say it a million times before. It bears repeating. I do not believe in coincidences. The people that join our lives are like planets. We have gravitational pulls. We find ourselves, orbiting these people and learning things from them. Backstage, we were having a phenomenal conversation about deep breaths. Feel free to do that. It's fine. I give you permission to breathe. We're talking about coaching. We're talking about corporate. Our guest today has a wide experience with all of these things. Welcome to the show, the one, the only Kim D. Snyder.
Woo! Thank you, Kellen. Happy to be here.
So I do want to talk about getting laid off, which is something we talked about backstage. How do folks who are struggling with that deal with it? And what's your experience moving through moments like that in your life?
Oh, well, I often think now, again, I'm on the other side of it, right? There's always a journey and it's always hindsight's 2020. But when I was laid off, it was probably 2005, early 2000s, we'll say that. So, 20 years ago. And I've run into people now, and it's you have to appreciate what you see. I also think it's a signaling of what you can't see in your life, and they're taking that opportunity to give you a gift. And for me personally, I was really burnt out, and I didn't realize how burnt out I was. But when I got laid off, there was actually a reduction in workforce, and I was in a very small group. I think there were 6 of us. We were technical. I think I was chosen for 2 reasons. I think 1, because I was burned out more than I thought. And 2, I think because I was also single and everybody else was married with kids. And so I was like, well, thankfully I could bounce back from that. But the journey that I went through, and I just experienced this with a friend recently, which is you feel a little bit of relief. You feel pissed off. You think, how could they? Why didn't I see it? Why was I still loyal? Why didn't I leave? Because I had thoughts of leaving, and this other particular person did too. So typically you kind of know it's bad, but you don't know it's that bad. I had people that I had talked to afterwards that had said, you'll be better for this. It's a little rough now. And I said, you're right. I didn't know what that journey looked like. I just knew it was going to be all right. And then the other thing that was funny for me is that I was thinking about going independent route at that point, and I was too afraid to do it. And yet when my circumstances changed, within 5 phone calls, I was doing the independent stuff that I was afraid of. Now, that was me, 15, 20 years ago. Yeah, it was probably 20 years ago. The person I'm talking about now, they didn't have that foresight where they wanted to go. They weren't afraid to go to that next step, but they were definitely afraid to leave. And so, of course, before you get let go or fired or whatever that is, or the company restructures, you're struggling. You're probably struggling anyways, or you're complacent. And so you're not producing in a way that's adding value. And I knew that because I wasn't focusing on one area. I was kind of focusing on, should I do this? Should I not? So I was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And I think a lot of people are like that. And I think it's really a gift. I think you have the opportunity to pick a place that you have a better fit for. So it doesn't matter if you're a business owner or a leader. It's the same thing in your business. If you're not where you're at in your business, you have a chance to refocus and really relook at where you want to go. And so whether it means a different product offering, different business model, different customers. So anyways, I said a lot. What are your thoughts?
No, I love that. I do want to transition that to the Great Resignation, which is one of the topics that is ubiquitous in the news articles I've been reading and talking about on the show. So a lot of people are seeing the pandemic as a way to restructure their lives, whether forced or otherwise. And what that is resulting in is a lot of people doing what I do. A lot of people ending up doing digital marketing because they're like, oh, I know Facebook, I know SEO, So that's a big career jump. For the folks that are in engineering, they're just making money hand over fist, like coding, machine learning engineer, all those people. I mean, they're in such high demand, cloud architecture, all that sort of stuff. But that's just sort of 1%er stuff, right? Everyone else is kind of going, well, do I want to sell insurance? Do I want to be a real estate agent? Do I want to work remotely for a company that doesn't pay as well, but I have my freedom and I can go live in Arkansas? There's just a million different things that are happening. And I think, to your point, when folks resign or they get laid off, especially in a pandemic, and in a pandemic where remote work has become the new normal, we're in an environment now where you can find a dream job, but your competition is really high. So if someone is looking for a national position, you're fighting against everyone else in the nation. So that's the weird thing about remote work, right? If you lived in, I don't know, I'm just trying to pick like a small town, Toledo. You're in Toledo in Ohio. Like the pool was Toledo, right? Like that's it. Like you're fighting against other people in Toledo who have social media marketing experience. But when you want that remote position now, you're fighting against everyone on the planet, including
Yep.
all other countries that speak English.
Yep. Totally agree. Well, I think that the great resignation is exactly the metaphor for getting laid off, which was something was happening before. It wasn't working, right? So let's be really straight. Like it hasn't been working in corporate America for a long time. um People are stressed, they're working obscene amount of hours, people leave and you just keep hopping on, like keeping on amounts of work. There's no work life balance, there's like people just aren't happy. I mean, you look at the engagement numbers, you look at all of this, right? People are just getting ready to leave, and it's been like that for quite a few years. Do you remember the term gig economy a few years ago? So before COVID hit, before the pandemic hit, there was this concept of gig economy. And I
Mm,
think the prediction was that 50% of the workforce would have their own gig. And it was I want to say it was like
mm,
by 2021, somewhere in there. It wasn't that far off. I mean, this is a concept that's been happening. And so um, I think it's interesting how the pandemic, again, right, something major has forced a change, has forced that to happen. Now, we're not calling it the gig economy, we're calling it the great resignation. People
mm,
are leaving to create that freedom that they've been experiencing for the past 2 years of work at home, which is typically the freedom of location. And the cool thing about this is that people are having the opportunity to see that it's really hard to be in business. It's really competitive. And so
mm,
some people have gone back in. But what has really happened is companies are like, holy crap, we actually have to fix our culture and environment, and things have got to
mm,
change. So even though people come back in, it's going to be better than it was when they left. And people, it's been a revolving door, and it's going to keep being like that until corporate really figures out and catches up to what the rest of the world knows, which is you can't have the command and control approach anymore to leadership, right?
mm.
You just can't say, I need to do this and I need this report on my desk by tomorrow because I want to feel really important, right? And people didn't like that, and it didn't resonate, but people didn't have the opportunity pre-COVID. They did, but not as many people took up on it, right? And they didn't understand what this freedom of time is. And so when you go from that command and control approach to we actually really care about our people and not giving it lip service, to let's really work together. And so where I think this is going, this is a topic that you didn't know, but I've been following for years. And
Mm,
so this is where I think we're going. I think we're going to go to a 4-day, 8-hour day work week.
mm.
I think that the 8 hours will be flexible. So I think instead of having our 8-hour work day, I think it'll be more of a 24-hour period. And I think that not only will it be 8 hours, but I think it'll be more results driven. And
Oh yeah.
so I have a project management background, and project management is a start date and end date with a goal. And I think where we're going to go with this is everything will be a project. So that now we'll be monitoring the projects. And so if somebody's really fast, they'll get it done in, 1 hour. Somebody's really slow, they'll get it done in 3, and somebody else will take 2. But now we're doing it by task, by project, which is an overall goal to the company, so we don't have to micromanage. And I think that's going to work whether you're in person. So the few companies that people want to work in person, and for I think it sounds like a majority want to be working remotely, right? They want their own gig economy, they want their own resignation to stay permanent. So
Mm,
that's where I think we're kind of going, right? So that catalyst happened, which here was the pandemic. So the gig economy happened way faster than it did. Because otherwise, at that point, I was like, it's not going to happen in 2021. It's going to happen.
It was
It's
such
probably
an
going to be a few years.
accelerant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, because I agree with the notion that we're going to be moving to a much more flexible schedule, because I've been addicted to this idea for years, ever since I saw my brother sitting at home playing Wii, like back when Wii was a thing. Um, and I was like, he worked from home. I couldn't believe it. I was like, he doesn't commute. Meanwhile, I was a teacher, which is like they own your time. I mean, and extra. I mean, ooh, those first couple of years of teaching, God bless you, teachers, if you're a good one and you're not just phoning it in. But anyway, I was just like, he's in heaven. I can't believe it, And I always wanted that for myself, and then it turns out I could give that to other people. But what I'm learning is that if you have a ton of work, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you work from home. You can still be burnt out and totally stressed out, and
Yeah.
have the flexibility of working from home, but just be inundated with client calls and a million different things. And it doesn't solve every problem.
Well,
And
typically it doesn't, Kellen. So hold on a second.
yeah,
So it
yeah,
doesn't solve it because there's one common element, right? Which is the person. So it doesn't matter if you're in corporate and you're burnt out and then you try to start your own thing and you're burnt out. Like it's
yeah.
you until you figure out those skills and figure out what makes you happy. It's just going to perpetuate. And I've seen that. Like I've done it personally, right? When I left corporate, when I went on my own, when I go back to corporate, like I keep dipping in and out of corporate. So it's
Mm.
always been fun. But I've got a friend that did the same thing. Like workaholic in corporate, left, did their coaching thing, did their own thing, workaholic. Right.
Ah,
So it
yeah.
typically is, it's the same thing. And so I think that if you're a high achiever wherever you're at, you've got to figure out those coping skills to make sure you have a life balance wherever you're at. It doesn't matter the environment.
That's so true. It's so true. And the thing about it's so funny. The grass is greener, right? So from my perspective, having the flexibility is great, but also I should always be talking to someone every moment of every single day, right? That's because that's my job as someone who's developing the business. I should always be making more partnerships. I should always be in a one-to-one with someone. I should always be, developing more business relationships all the time, constantly, every hour of the day. Whether that's TikTok or Instagram or like you
Yes.
name it, I should constantly be doing these things. Um, and sometimes you don't feel like it. And the thing is, you don't have to. When you own it, you don't have to do any of this stuff. You've absolutely, you know what I mean? And so when folks don't have any money and you're in that phase of like just launch it off the ground, well then yeah, that's your motivator. You're like, well, I gotta get paid, and you're freaking out because you need to make money. But once the money is there, now it's like, okay, now get motivated now. Go ahead, go do that thing and so it's not surprising to me that greedy people, you know what I'm saying, have a leg up because they're like, it's not enough. And they never feel satisfied. And they're always like hunting for the next thing because they're like, $200,000 a year, that's poverty wages. I want 600,000. But then the
I don't
problem
think
is,
it's the money. I think it's they don't know what makes them happy. And so again, you just get on this
hmm,
wheel and it's like, okay, whether you start in corporate or you have a business or wherever your path is, you just keep going. And so you might think it's the money, like, okay, I have the goal, but ultimately, like, what is it? Like, so if you own your business, okay, great. I'm pulling in, my business is pulling in 500K. Okay, now it's at seven figures. Now it's
right.
at, mid seven. But again, everybody's going to hit that point where it doesn't matter anymore. Like I hit that in my
Hmm,
corporate life. Like I don't care. You cannot pay me enough money to go do that right now. Like I don't care. I'll take a 80% pay cut to go do something and not have to do that. Right. Like you were
right.
sharing, it wasn't quite that extreme, but it was like, hey, you were burnt out a few months ago. Right. And
Yeah.
you were like, I wasn't going to do anything. Right. And I've been struggling with that as well through like, I lost my mom a year and a half ago and it's like, it's been showing up in different ways. And it's like,
Mm.
I don't have that motivation to do stuff. And so for me, it's a little bit of the depression motivation as opposed to burnout, which again kind of manifests
God,
itself
those
in
two
different ways.
things come together all the time. Like I had a medical issue at the time. Like it's never just the thing. You know what I mean? That's the nature of being a human. Is it's like you say I'm burnt out, but your relationship with this person is like a total dumpster fire. And there's this medical thing that happened over here, and there's like six things happening with your house and your car this and your license that and this paperwork this and this state of California tax document just arrived. Like it's never just it's so complicated to be a human being.
It is. So how did you get yourself out of that?
Well, actually, I ended up going to this. I call him Saint James. He's this laser eye surgeon guy who fixed something that I had a problem, and I finally found like medical treatment that worked and got rid of the problem. And it's so funny to me because everyone, when you don't know the extent of it, it's easy to be like, well, it's a mental thing. But getting rid of the problem, highly recommended. You know what I'm saying? Like if you have the successful outcome in a thing that you're struggling with, like I have excruciating hip pain, and then you have a surgery and it goes away. Like, it's a big deal. And so that was a huge leg up for me because I was like, I can see again. Yay, that helps.
Yeah, and
You
that would
know,
get rid of some of the other issues, but so I guess it's really, like, recognizing what it is and then fixing it, right?
going
So
all in, and then I feel so bad to people who can't fix it. You know what I mean? And because I felt I every single eye doctor I went to for about 4 months said it live with it is what it is. You know what I mean? And I finally found a guy who's like, no, we can treat it. And I'm like, oh,
because
thank
you were
God.
tenacious, you weren't gonna take no, but you were probably doing other things, right? So you were like, "Okay, I'm looking at, like, diet stuff
Oh,
or stretching or
million different
exercise
things.
or meditate." So it
Yeah,
wasn't the only thing, and so if you have the money or the resources or the time or whatever, there's always things that you can do
yeah.
to help lessen it and make it better if you can't have that full solution. And I think, that's what it's been for me. Like I had to recognize, okay, what can I do and what can I not do right now? And let me focus on what I can do. And I didn't want to focus on what I couldn't do. I just wanted to know, I wanted to be really clear. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. So for example, for me right now, I am about a little over halfway of a 120-day social media and digital detox. And,
Mm.
I've produced content for 4, 5, 6, 7 years constantly daily on LinkedIn.
Whoa.
And so I stopped. I was gonna do 30 days and then I said, I'm gonna do 60. And then I was like, I'm just gonna go 120. And I just
Wow.
decided like, okay, I need that time. Like I don't want to produce content right now. I need
Wow.
that mental break. I don't want to create in a creation mode. I need to take that break. I really need to sit in a more quiet space. And then none of this cost money. Right. And so there's things that you can do if you find yourself not as motivated or not well. I've got a friend that's a
Mm.
chiropractor and he's really interesting. He says, people don't ever think, "Oh, I feel great today." They want to feel, "I don't want to be in pain today." And so, like
Mm.
with your breath thing, like your breath thing is like amazing, right? I'm
Mm.
going to start using that by the way, which
Yeah,
is
just
I
breathe,
feel
girl.
amazing. You didn't say, I'll take a breath so I don't feel pain. You're just like, I feel
Mm.
amazing. And so I think if you start looking at how am I going to feel great today and what can you do about that as opposed to how am I going to be less pain today?
Oh,
I
I
think that's
love that.
a little
Yeah,
different.
it's this has been going around. Stop me if you've heard this, but Simon Sinek is he's got this video where he says the mind doesn't understand negatives, and
Yeah.
he says, I'll prove it. Don't think of a pink elephant. Just whatever you do, don't think of a pink elephant. And of course, everyone's thinking about that. And so when
Exactly.
we say don't be angry, or he didn't really piss me off, but it's like yeah, but those are the words you're
The
using.
pissed off is what you hear. Yeah.
That's exactly like you can't put a no in front of it and expect it not to be the thing. So it's love, tranquility, peace, as opposed to anxiety, war, you know what I mean, etc. So like focusing on those things is a big deal. Not everyone has internal dialogue. I learned that. I definitely do.
Me too.
Okay, all right. Internal dialogue, siblings. But yeah, I got to keep that thing positive. That's a huge piece of the puzzle because at the end of the day, loving what is currently existing. Like I had a cold sore the other day, like a few months ago. I get one like every year around Christmas time. And I was like, you know what? I'm really going to test this out. I'm going to be like best cold sore ever. I love this thing. This is great because it's not going like I am healthy. I am healthy. I am healthy. It's
Yeah.
like no, I recognize that I'm in the current state I am actually in right now is sick, right? Like that's what's happening. But I'm going to say like it's healing super fast, right? That's what I'm going to focus on. And then it's so wild. It actually healed faster than normal. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe my eyes. Like the next couple of days, I was like, this is not normal. This is not usually how it goes. Like this is not like it's working. Um, and yeah, so that's super wild. And we can do it about anything. We can say that it feels good. We can say that it's like, actually, this is okay. I'm good about this. Like this is like I'm enjoying this, right? And that switch that occurs is as close to magic that I've ever found in my life.
So I don't get cold sores, but I'll share that technique with my brother. But if we kind
Yeah.
of take that technique and we go back to the beginning of the conversation, which is burnout, right? So again,
Mm.
so instead of saying I'm burned out and I'm tired and I'm
Hmm.
frustrated and blah blah blah, like you've got to look for the good in it, right?
Right.
So, and you can't say I'm not. You can't do the not. So it's got to be
Right.
like Okay, I have a job. Great, I
That's
have a job.
right.
I might
That's
not be
right.
super happy or whatever, but I have a job, and like you got to start somewhere, right? Or
Right.
like with
Yeah.
your eye, like whatever was going on with your eyes, like at least I can see, or I can see for an
Right.
hour, or you know what I mean? Like you got to look
Right.
for the good in it, and you know
Yeah.
it sounds funny, but it works. And I've done similar approaches when I go through things in my life, which is let me find the one good thing, like. And sometimes
Yes.
you might just find that moment, and you have to relive that moment multiple times to get to the good. And like it's that self-talk. And self-talk, talk to your mind. It is the mindset, right? I mean, the mind controls 90% of what we do. And it's it creates the good mood or the bad mood or our outlook. It's all the mindset, because that tells us where we're going to go, what we're going to do, what we're going to say, how we're going to act, how we're going to react, how we're not
Mm-hmm.
going to react. It all starts with the mindset. And so having that perspective, whether you're laid off, whether you're burned out, whether the pandemic was there. I mean, I'm
Mm.
not roses and champagne, because I mean, the last 2 years sucked at multiple levels and for various
Right.
people. But it's like, hey, everybody had a gap year. Okay, we can laugh about it. Like, or maybe some people didn't have a gap year and they wish they did. But it's like,
Right.
okay, I learned some stuff that I probably wouldn't have learned. I learned how to like really sit at home a lot, which I didn't, and now I'm a home wife. And like
Mm.
again, finding that perspective that works for you so that you have that outlook, because there's always something that you can find that's good.
Yeah, can we love the process? It's one of those things where if you look at something being made, let's say like the story of
Sausage.
the
Just kidding.
say
Sorry.
what now?
Sausage.
Oh, there. Well, okay, let's use sausage. So you've got an animal, right? And then incredible pain, right, as it dies. And then it gets like you look at all of the meat processing that goes into it, and it's like all of those things are horrifying. You're like, oh god, oh this, oh. And then you get the end result, and then you see the joy on the other side of that, right? Of someone actually like taking it in and enjoying it and whatever. It's like the process can be excruciating and ugly and painful and bad. But only when you zoom back and you go, oh, I see. Because that's humanity. It's like, here's your body. It's going to decay. You're going to die. Right. It's all like, it's not like nobody's getting out of this thing alive. Right. You're going to experience a lot of pain and suffering. But when you look at the whole process, you go, wow, it's gorgeous. It's stunning. Like there's nothing as beautiful as that. Look at that life. Look at that entire life. As this like vehicle for some sort of learning, right? Um, and then you recognize like, oh, if it's just a VR hologram, if this is the Matrix and we just have the VR headset strapped on so tight we can't take it off, if that is what's happening, and it seems likely that we are, I follow Elon Musk on this one. He says, what's the likelihood that this is base reality? Because just probabilistically, right? So we are going to create virtual reality shortly that is indistinguishable from real reality. Like it'll be in like 1,000 years, 100,000 years. You don't think there's going to be ridiculous VR that's like you can't even tell.
In
And
five
then
or 10 years, are you kidding? I mean,
that's
five
what
or
I'm
10 years.
saying.
Yeah.
So his point is if there are trillions of those, right? Because it'll just be exponential. If you have trillion options as to the virtual realities you want to be in, he's like, what's the likelihood this one that we're in right now is base reality? It's unlikely.
Yeah.
Um,
That's cool though. So you could use it and go, hey, I want to be happy today. So let's slot that like VR, into my little viewfinder and like,
yeah,
okay, I'm at whatever that happy environment is for me, right? Like, so it's probably for me, it's by water. Like, I want to be by water and relaxing. And like for
yeah.
you, it might be meditating and like,
Hmm.
okay. And then, oh, I want my relaxing mode, right? So like, let me go pick that from the virtual shelf and plop it in. And
Yeah.
like, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, and I think to a certain extent that's what's happening exactly right now, which is to say, I don't know what your mind works like, but you can agree or but it's not disagreeing. It's just, tell me if your mind works like this. But I'll be talking to you and then all of a sudden I will be in another place. Like I will literally be experiencing some other thing, right? Like I'll see it and
No,
I'll
that's
okay.
cool.
It's been my whole life. But I'll just like I'll experience some moment, right? And some people, I think they have to try to do that, where they'll sit there and be like, okay, I'm going to intend to manifest the thing, and then they'll see themselves in a mansion, and that's the front door, and the lights coming through, and there's a little crystal that's shooting rainbows, and here's all these beautiful plants all over the mansion. There's this like water fountain, and then you walk by like the BMW and the four-stall garage. Like you can do that, you can walk through and like go into those places. my mind just like auto inputs stuff like that.
Right. So like you're talking to somebody and you'll have like flashes of like, oh my God, that's what I want. Or like you'll just kind of step out of the conversation and like be watching her. Like explain more.
No, I'll just be in a different moment. You know, I'll be in like a moment that is just somewhere else, some place else, you know? Like it, and a lot of times it's negative. Like I'll be honest with you. It's like I'll be living out a fear of like some bad thing that could happen, right? And so that's just my mind. It just pumps out these experiences, you know?
Well, I would say maybe I experienced things similarly, but not in the way that you're describing. Maybe I kind
Mm,
of thinking it's out of body, but I think that again, it comes back to mindset, right? So you always come in and you're in this conversation and it's like, I said that. It's like, oh, did I say that? Did I sound stupid? Is it fear? Like then you
oh
come back
yeah,
in
yeah,
and
yeah.
then you're like, oh, that was fun. Oh, I should have used a different example. Oh, then my mind wanders. Oh, let me, you know what I mean? Like I don't have
Yeah.
that, but I think that a lot of people do. And I think
Oh
that
yeah.
it's just, I mean, there's so many thoughts, right? So you have to work to be present, whatever you're doing. So if it's an
Yeah.
interview, if you're doing, your 30 minutes of hard work, if you're meditating, I think that um, you have to be not even present. You just have to be what's the term? Diligent. Like, what am I going to do? Am I going to sit on the side of negativity? Am I going to
Right.
sit in here and be happy? Am I going to walk out the door and take my deep breaths? I mean, you just
Yeah,
have to.
and the other thing too, and I love what you're saying, and I agree with it. It's like I had a tense moment today, and I ended the conversation with "I hope everyone has a good day," and it was obviously tense. You know what I mean? It was obvious, like it wasn't like no, it was, we're all very aware that it was like the emotions were running high. But you can being able to do those sorts of things in those situations is a big deal too. Like the kids are freaking out, and it's like you're a firefighter almost. Like you're that you can like roll up and it's like
Yeah.
I will be the calm presence in this particular moment, and you can't get that unless there's that moment.
Yeah, and I had a similar incident recently as well where I was doing some business coaching. It was strategy, and the customer was like, but what we're talking about isn't related to strategy. Let's get back to it. And I said, it is because you're the owner or the leader, and it comes down to you and the decisions that you make and how much time or how little time you want to spend here and where you want to go. And really, for this
Mm,
particular incident, it came down to what makes you happy, right?
mm,
And they thought it was X, and I just said, is it really X? Like you really need to think and sit on that. Is what your happiness X or is it Y or Z or something you never imagined? And so
mm,
but sitting in that space to be really cognizant about what you want and have a great day. And it was have a great day, because it was
yeah.
times and you
Oh
could see
yeah,
her
yeah.
like
Oh totally. And you
thinking,
can,
oh,
yeah, like you can say that in a way that's like an attack. Like have a great day. You know what I mean? Like no, I meant it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
like really
yeah,
have a great day. Like we talked about some really, really heavy stuff. So just kind of go throughout your day, have a great day. It will pop up in different ways for you, right? Depending on
yeah,
how your mind works. And sometimes they can't, like, they got to concentrate on it then, or sometimes it comes to them at night, or sometimes when they meditate, or when they
yeah.
work out, whenever that is. But like, have a great day.
Yeah, I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, we could talk for hours, but the show is wrapping up. Want to make sure that Kim D. Snyder has a chance to tell you about what she does, where you can reach her, etc. So, Kim, why don't you tell the fine folks where they can learn more about you?
Oh gosh. I would say the best place is really to go to kimdsnyder.com. And that's a great place. You can go check out more business in a box. But kimdsnyder.com is the great place. You can follow me out there on social. I'm pretty much Kim D. Snyder everywhere. If you've got any questions, what I'll do is I'll create a quick link here for if anybody has a quick 10-minute call. So if you want to go to kimdsnyder.com/Kellen, I'll offer
Mm.
a free, 10-minute call if somebody has any questions about what we talked about or whatever. I'll offer that for the next, month or two for free, and we'll go from there. How's that?
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, you know the drill. YouTube.com/Sender Rising. Leave a comment, hit the thumbs up button. If you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, or the 13 other podcast platforms that we're currently streaming, thank you so much, etc. Kim D. Snyder, that's KIMD as in danger. Snyder, SNYDER, that's SNYDER.com. Check her out. Final words of wisdom, Kim, for the fine folks. Leave them with something.
I would say always find the nugget of happiness or positivity that you can, because there's always something in every moment that you can find.
Bingo. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next time.